Glad that you're here with us on Morning Express this Tuesday morning. It is indeed a morning where we are looking forward and having a great show so far. Now, today being Tuesday, for those of you that might be familiar, it's a day that we host a person of interest. In case you're not familiar, not to worry. Person of interest is somebody who we pick and we just want to find out who they are behind the headlines and also take a 360 on them from basically who they are and to the ends of what they do and their profession and how they execute their duties, and that's what we're going to do. Now today, joining me is none other than Dr. Otiende Amollo, who is the chair for the Commission of Administrative Justice, also known as the Ombudsman. And of course, I know there are many of us, I just did a rough survey, you know, just as I was, since I knew we'll be hosting him today, to find out who knows what the Ombudsman is and what his duty is. And surprisingly, quite a number did not know. So hopefully we'll break that down for you and let you know what his office is there for and what it does for you as Wanjiko. Also remember, you're welcome to participate in the conversation. You can do that via Twitter, and my Twitter handle is at Michael G. Gitonga. That's at Michael G. Gitonga. We'll also open up the phone lines at some point if you'd like to ask questions, and maybe you feel his office has not addressed your need, or you just like clarity on some of the things that his office is there to do, then you'll be free to do that. So the phone lines will be open, but I'll fill you in when we're doing that. Remember, the Twitter handle is at Michael G. Gitonga. Now, joining me, thank you very much, Dr. Otiende Amollo. Thank you for coming into the studio.
Thank you.
And let's just start with the basics. And normally we start with where you were born, where you grew up.
Thank you, Michael. I was born in a small town called Maseno. My father used to be a casual laborer with what is now called Maseno University. Then it was called Siriba. And for a few years, we spent my years there. Then he was dismissed, what I consider to be unlawfully. And that's when I generated my interest in law, especially human rights law.
What happened to him?
Well, there was another lady who was unlawfully dismissed, and he thought that he would stand up to the principal and told the principal he thought was wrong, and he earned his dismissal immediately. And,
because of standing with this
because of standing with the other person who everybody thought was being frustrated by the new principal, but nobody had the courage to speak to her on her behalf. And so he stood up and spoke on her behalf. And so he was also immediately dismissed. And that is how then we relocated to my rural home, which is where I did basically all my learning.
Okay. And where is your rural home?
I come from a place called Uyoma in Rarieda constituency in the larger Siaya County. Yes.
Okay. And do you remember possibly your primary school days?
Vividly. I went to a school called Chianda Primary School after coming from Maseno, and you know, we spent a lot of time. It was a very trying time because my family was particularly poor, so we would go to the lake in the morning, come back, and still get to school before 7. Wow. And then, you know, you'd have the lunch break in the evening. You'd have to go and draw some water again, and then come back. So it was very trying. Yes, but it helped us. The teachers were then very strict. From there I went to Maranda, what is called Maranda High School, which is where I did my secondary school. And then from there I joined the University of Nairobi to study law. Okay.
You talk about the days you'd go to fetch water and, you know, then you'd have to go to school. How did that, what part does that play in your character today?
I think the one thing it helped me achieve was discipline. You'd have to be disciplined enough to know that there must be a balance between learning and life. You'd have to be disciplined enough to know that no matter the circumstances, you still have to get to school in time. Otherwise, they would lock you out. And you still have to be disciplined enough to understand that what the teachers were doing at the time was to assist you, not to just punish you for the sake of it.
Right.
And I think it was very helpful. It's a kind of interesting situation now because the real challenge in life that I see is how to get our children to enjoy the benefits of that kind of discipline without depriving them, without trying to make them live the hard life that you lived, but yet to get that, the benefit of that learning is a tricky thing that many of us, I'm sure, are equally challenged.
Is it something achievable? Because given today, the day and age we live in, it would almost be viewed as torture if you did that.
It would be viewed as torture. It is achievable, I believe, by discussion, by, demonstration, but it is much, much harder to learn it in a situation of privilege than in a situation of hardship that many of us may have come from.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll be going shortly to some of the pictures that we have of you, and maybe you'll describe to us what they are and who those people are in your life. But also, we have them there. Maybe you can just run us through. That was with Barack Obama.
Oh, yes. The first picture was with Barack Obama visited in 2006, and I was selected to have a discussion, and we had a long discussion of about an hour. The second picture was taken last year when the President of the Republic, Uhuru Kenyatta, came as the chief guest during what we call the Huduma Ombudsman Awards. Every year for 2 years running now, we involve all Kenyans to identify who they believe to be outstanding public officers. And this year alone, we had almost 4,000 nominees. Okay. And as the culmination, then the President comes to give the awards.
Are those awards that continue to be given to this day?
They continue to be given to this day. The last award we gave in July this year, and we give them every year. So I urge Kenyans, there are a lot of public officers who mean well and do a lot of work, not necessarily in Nairobi, but perhaps even far in some far-flung places. Okay. I urge Kenyans to identify such people so that we can...
All right, we'll come to the actual description of the Ombudsman and what they do for the country and what you're there for, what your office is constitutionally put there for. But maybe if we can just run through the pictures a bit more as we carry on. Director? Yeah, we have another picture there.
Those are many years with now Attorney General Githu Muigai. That was when we were serving in the Committee of Experts.
There's another interesting one right there.
That was my first year at the University of Nairobi.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Back in 1990.
Yeah, there's another one.
Oh, that was the young me joining Form 1.
Form 1, and there I can see with your...
That was with my late brother.
In the red cap?
Yes, in the red cap. That was my brother. We were in the same school. Okay. I just joined Form 1. He's now deceased.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now, your secondary school days is another
That
one
was when we were at the University of Nairobi. The gentleman on the right is now Professor of Law, Kech Migai. The one second is the Legal Office of Nation, Owino Seko, and the other one is a prominent lawyer in Kisumu. We were in class, I think that was second year.
Okay. Let's now go to your secondary school days. Those are your primary school days. Which secondary school did you go to?
I went to Maranda, which in those years was relatively unknown. I think in our first year, we were the first. I was privileged to come top of the class. And I think that was the first time it came within the top 100. Of course, over the years, it became to be known. As you know, it emerged number 1 in some recent years, But I went to Maranda, and in those days, it was tough because me and my brother would walk 30 kilometers to school.
Every day?
No, not every day. At the beginning of the year and maybe during half term, because my parents were not that privileged. So we'd have the bag and then we'd walk all the way, and walk back. But when I joined, my brother was already in that school. He was about 2 years ahead of me, and it helped. But I developed a very keen interest in drama. In my youthful days, I used to be a good dramatist. I think I started acting when I was in class 3.
Wow.
Those who are senior Kenyans might remember, there was a time there was a concept of what was called majitu. There was this idea of people. Yes, and for us now we were called vijitus.
Okay. I remember there was something like a TV program about majitus or something.
It was the only KBC that would show it, and then we would go and act. And so from class 3 basically all through to my secondary school I was acting. And in 1988, I was privileged to be one of the 3 national best actors at the National Drama Festival. So I had a keen interest. I took a keen interest in drama. I was also playing football. But it was clear to me then that sports was not paying at that time. Acting was not paying. And therefore, once I got to Form 3, I dropped, after I was a national best actor, I dropped all that. In fact, it earned me a suspension. I was suspended because I had now refused to continue acting.
Oh, really?
Yes, and
And for you, your refusal was simply because you didn't see a future in it?
I didn't see a future in it. I needed to put all my time on academics. But you see, drama had been lifting the school, so the principal then did not understand. And so when I was suspended, I told my principal, I have no problem, provided that you'll explain to my father that I was suspended because I've refused to act, because I want to study. And when I did that, I was suspended, then I was recalled. And without the usual punishment.
And did your father have a problem with that?
My father, they eventually didn't call him because I think it was going to be to look funny.
Bad on their part.
Yeah, so I was just recalled and quietly admitted, and I went on with my studies.
Okay. Given the time that that was happening, I mean, a teacher was almost final authority, just like a parent.
Yes.
You would hardly contest or contend with a teacher if they told you to do something. Would you have considered yourself stubborn of some sort?
That's what the teachers called me then, especially the principal. But I knew that I had not done anything wrong. I knew I had come to that school in the first place to study. So all these were extracurricular activities. And I was quite clear in my mind that as long as I had not done anything that was considered wrong within the rules of the school, I was within my rights to insist. And therefore, although they called me stubborn then, I think eventually, and especially after our exams and all, they all thought that I'd made the right decision and they congratulated me. So I don't think I was stubborn then. I think I was merely insisting on what was right for me. Yes.
All right, so now you finished secondary school. Which university did you go to?
I finished secondary school. I was privileged to come top of the class. I joined the University of Nairobi, Parkland's campus, where we had an interesting class. In those days, the joining law was a little more difficult than it is now, because first, it is only the University of Nairobi that was offering a law degree. We were about 160 of us in the whole country, and it was quite competitive. It was very, very competitive, but interesting, because for the first time, I was able to interact with a lot of people from all over the country, of different backgrounds, of different walks of life. And sometimes I look at some of the students we have now, and there are certain advantages they don't get. If you go to primary school, secondary school, and the university in your local town, there's a sense in which you miss the overall picture of the nation. And that's the advantage we had. You could immediately see the face of Kenya, you could interact with different people, and you immediately felt a sense of larger belonging to this nation called Kenya, perhaps than some might get right now.
Okay. Did you always see yourself as doing law, or was it out of your father being dismissed unfairly that you felt that you need to seek justice?
I was so determined to study just law that in secondary school, when we were given the options to fill, for the courses, I filled all three options as law. And the teacher called me and told me, no, you've made a mistake because you're supposed to fill this and then you have a second option and a third option. But I told him, my options are clear. I just want to study law. And if I can't,
law or law?
Yes, then I had always decided that if I couldn't study law, then I didn't need to go to university. I'll just find a way of joining the police force and become an investigator, because I was also intrigued with the way investigators would do some of those things on TV. And so it was always just to study law.
Okay. Now, while you're in campus, I know that we all have our youth and some of those things that we go through when we're in campus. What are some of those things you remember possibly that you maybe went against the rules of the school, or maybe just, some of those youthful things that people do?
I think I was a little more adventurous in high school than I was in campus. First, in high school, I remember this one day, my brother and I think about a few other boys kind of found ourselves out of school. There was some disco in a place called Bondo, and I was carried along, and I think then we overstayed, or some teachers got us. So when we came back, we were all blocked from school, and then we were suspended. We were told to go and call my parents. And for me, I couldn't face my father, so I went to stay with my cousin until the day that was appointed. And then we came back to school, and it was a very difficult experience, and we were severely punished. Interestingly, although I was only in Form 2, and some of the boys were in Form 5 and 6 and Form 4, the principal decided that I was the one who had led the team.
The ringleader.
That I was the ringleader, and I was the youngest. And I thought it was unfair. And I said, well, I think I'm wrong, but surely that can't be right. And my father promptly told me that I am so wrong that if I add another word, then I'll be in
also, he eventually found out.
Yeah, well, he found out, and he came to school at that time. At the university, at the time, the students of law were fairly reserved. especially because I think they are far from the main campus. But still there were moments that I remember were quite tense. For example, when the late Dr. Robert Uuko died, and then the students just lit a bonfire and it was becoming very chaotic. And then the police were called in, but it did not degenerate too much. But once there was a demonstration that was organized, and I remember this because as students of law, we decided we needed to join the demonstration peacefully. But unfortunately, once we joined our colleagues, it degenerated, and there were instances of throwing stones and stuff like that, and I personally did not approve of that. And therefore, we pulled back and went back to campus, and I didn't quite join another demonstration. Other than that, our life at the university was fairly quiet, except every time there was a strike. And you know, in those days, strikes could be called for all sorts of reasons, sometimes legitimate, sometimes illegitimate. That they did not make the right food, for example, or sometimes that there was a delay in boom. You remember then
yes,
there was
famous boom, yes.
But there's nothing we loved more than the boom, because you'd be told to go back to the rural district and collect it. You would all go. I would go to Siaya. You'd all meet all your friends there. You'd collect that money. By the time you get back to Nairobi, more than half of it is already spent anyway.
It was a reunion of sorts.
It was a reunion of sorts.
Okay, fantastic. So now you finished your law degree, and where did you progress from there?
I finished my law degree. I got a couple of scholarships to study abroad, but I did not take them because at the time I had, given my background, I also had to support some of my siblings, and I was already engaged to my wife, who had met much earlier at the earlier part of the university. And so I considered that I had a fundamental responsibility to stay around. So I declined those scholarships and stayed around. Immediately I left campus. I joined the firm of Muhammad and Wigai even before I was admitted. I was intermittently in that firm. And so I was later admitted as an advocate, and I continued studying, you know, my master's and finished. I stayed with Muhammad and Wigai for a couple of years, and then I joined the law firm, which is now called Otiende Amollo Advocates. This was around 1998.
Okay.
So I was in that law firm as a partner, later as the managing partner, until I was appointed to the committee of experts, and now later as the Ombudsman.
Okay. Now you mentioned that you're already engaged, so you're married?
Yes, I am married with 6 children. The last 3 are triplets. We had planned with my wife to just have 1 more child. By the grace of God, they ended up 3.
Buy one, get 2 free.
Yeah, well, so yes. So my first son just finished university. He also studied law, and the last ones, you know, they're 5, so they're in the earlier part of their learning.
Okay.
Yes.
And as a parent, what are some of the challenges you've seen as they're growing in this day and age, especially with the education system?
There are many challenges. First, while we used to wake up early, but relatively speaking, I think the kind of arrangements we have for the children, sometimes the children are mistreated. When children who are 4, 5 years have to wake up as early as 4 or 4:30.
Those are your triplets?
Yes, that's when they were
what are
less
their
than a
names?
year. The first one is called Jewel Mitch. Mitch in Luo means gift. The second one is called Jean Nwono. Nwono is peace. And the last one is called Jaden John Amollo. Amollo, I named it after my father. Okay. So that's when they were quite young. They were less than a year. Now they're much older. They will probably show another picture.
The triplets are 2 girls, 1 boy?
2 girls and 1 boy.
Okay.
Overall, I have 4 girls and 2 boys,
okay,
which is in keeping with my family. I come from a big family of 10. We were 3 boys and 7 girls. Now we are 2 boys and 7 girls.
Wow.
Yes.
Excellent. So you are talking about the children being mistreated.
Yes, so children wake up far too early. I am not so sure there's a solution to this. I know instances of a child, first they start school far too early. Like my children started when they were barely 2.5, you know, in the earlier part of the primary school. Children end up waking up quite early, like 4:30 or 5, and this is a child of less than 5 years. So I think it's a big challenge, especially with the jams and all. The second challenge as they now grow older is this digital age. I think when we were growing, what you could see could be easily controlled. There was only one channel, TV's channel. They would show very, conservative kind of programs.
Yes.
There was nothing like IT. But in this age, when even my daughter, who's 10, perhaps knows more about IT than I do,
Correct.
she takes my iPad and is able to do things that I didn't think were possible. It becomes a serious challenge how to control children, so that they only get to know things that they can now begin to understand. And I think that's the biggest challenge. The third challenge is, I think, what we'd call the human rights age. In our situation, human rights was not a priority, and virtually any parent or any teacher could punish you, and that punishment could be corporal sometimes. I think now, even if you saw a student doing something bad, you would not dare touch them, because chances are you'd be prosecuted, for interference or for assault or something else. So the third challenge now is the idea of, the increment in human rights knowledge, and even a child of 5 years knows that they have certain rights.
Actually, what they call children's rights.
Yes, the children's rights. So you must persuade them. You must make them understand. And where you find instances that they don't, then you really don't know what to do.
Then you're in trouble.
Those three areas, I think, are a serious challenge right now.
Okay. All right, we're now going to come to your office and what you do. And just a quick reminder, with me in the studio is Dr. Otiende Amollo, who is the Ombudsman or the CEO for the Commission on Administrative Justice, which is the Ombudsman's office, and that's what we want to talk about. Remember, you can, I will now display the phone lines in case you have a question for him. Also, if you'd like to ask via Twitter, the Twitter handle is at Michael G. Gitonga. Now, tell me about the Office of the Ombudsman. What exactly is that?
First, the Ombudsman is a Swedish word. Some people sometimes think that we should make it gender neutral.
Like ombudsperson or
yes,
something.
Yes. You cannot, because it's not an English word, it's a Swedish word which means a representative of the people. And the word, the man part of the Swedish word actually means person.
It means person.
So it's neutral as it is.
Right.
It's an institution that is over 200 years old. First began in Sweden, then went to Norway and Denmark, and then it went to the rest of the world. In Africa, I think the first country to establish the Ombudsman was Tanzania in 1967. And the work of the Ombudsman is to deal with maladministration. That is, where public officers fail to do what they should do or do what they should not do. Maladministration, as you know, is administration gone wrong. So primarily, the Ombudsman, in all the 170 countries where they exist, traditionally deal with instances of maladministration. We receive complaints from the people, from the citizens, on where they believe they have been ill-treated by the administration, and then we seek to remedy it. And so it could range from a complaint against the president because the president did this or didn't do what, to maybe the village elder and everything in between. So it could be questions of delay, it could be questions of lack of integrity, it could be question of mistreatment, or
generally
anything
it's
else.
to promote good governance.
It is to promote
and
good
to ensure
governance.
anywhere that somebody feels there is injustice
Yes.
from a public office, then the Ombudsman is there to represent Wanjiko or
Absolutely.
the constituent.
Absolutely.
Now, maybe it might be good to also understand and separate the difference between, or is there a difference between a state officer and, for instance, an elected
There is. Under the Constitution of Kenya, there are two categories of public officials. There are state officers and public officers. State officers are identified, and it has a limited category, starting with the president, the deputy president, the cabinet secretaries, members of parliament, and I think it comes all the way to MCAs. But a public officer is anybody employed by government, be it national government or county government, and who earns from the public coffers. And so whether you are a teacher, whether you are a chief, or anybody else, you come in the category of public officers. Our role, therefore, incorporate public officers generally, which would include state and public officers. In that respect, elected leaders are public officers. But there are certain elected leaders who are categorized as state officers, from the MCAs, MPs, senators, governors, and those others. But you could be an elected leader in any other category. But As long as you are earning from the public, you'll be a public officer and you'll fall within our jurisdiction.
So you'll fall under the jurisdiction of the Commission of Administrative Justice.
Yes.
Okay. So now, what are some of the complaints that possibly you have received so far from the time the office was established? And maybe before we go there, it might be important to understand why was it necessary to have this office established within the Constitution?
In this country, and I think almost all Kenyans know that impunity has been a problem.
Absolutely.
And impunity in public office has particularly been problematic for the last over 40 or so years since we gained our independence. And so when the Constitution of Kenya 2010 was established, was passed, it was thought that it was important to have an office that would serve as a bridge between government and the people. An office that is sufficiently empowered to receive complaints against government officials and to redress those complaints. The office, therefore, was first established in the Constitution, but we were appointed in November 2011. So our first year was in 2012. We've been in office now for about 3.5 years. In that time, we have grown in terms of the complaints we receive by educating Kenyans on our existence and what we do. In 2012, we received about 4,000 complaints. In 2013, we received about 18,000. And last year, we received 86,000. Now, the work of the Ombudsman is to receive complaints and to remedy them.
Correct.
So, since 12, we have also endeavored to increase the number of cases that we resolve. So that up to last year, we received 86,000, but we were able to resolve 81,000 of them. That's about 82%. And so the kind of cases we receive, it depends on which jurisdiction, but for example, we'll receive cases of people who have been improperly terminated, perhaps by a given institution. And where we determine that they should not have been sacked, we will determine and they'll be taken back. So we've had people, readmitted after termination, say by the National Oil Corporation, by Technical University, by Egerton University.
Giving that example that you've used, yes, there are systems in place already that should take care of that. For instance, labor courts, and there's a labor law. So why would somebody come to the Ombudsman, or at what point do they come to you? Is it after exhausting all the other avenues, or at what point do they come to you? And why would you take care of that when there is a labor law that takes care of, for instance, somebody who's been dismissed unfairly?
The idea of the Ombudsman is to provide an alternative, easy and accessible mode to the courts, and especially to ordinary Kenyans. Those Kenyans who are improperly treated by public officers and are sufficiently rich, chances are they will choose to go to court, hire an expensive lawyer, pay about 100,000 Kenya shillings to go to court and then maintain it through. But there are many Kenyans who will not have that luxury. They may not even have the money. So for example, you are employed as a casual laborer, or in some public institution, and then one day, like what happened to my father, the CEO decides that they don't like your face, and you're told to go home without any benefit. You will not even have money to hire a lawyer.
Correct.
So the reason why one would come to us first is because the Ombudsman offices are free. Courts are not free. Secondly, we are less formal. In court, when you go there, you must be the one to give the evidence. In our case, once you've complained, we help, we ourselves investigate. And we determine whether, therefore, you are the one who was wrong or not wrong. Unlike court, where you must give the evidence. Thirdly, we are fast. The methods that we used, unlike courts, are supposed to be quite fast. That's why, in 1 year, we are able to resolve 82% of those cases. But more importantly, the work of the Ombudsman is to find quick remedy for the things that affect the citizens. And some of them are things you might not take to court. You apply for your ID. The government says it will take, say what, 16 days in Nairobi? By 3 months, you've still not received it. You can't go to court to sue the government that you said 16 days, now it's 3 months. But you can come to us and we will write to the ministry or the cabinet secretary and say, your charter says 16 days, it has been 90 days. Give us a very good reason why there has been delay in this matter. So there are some of those injustices that are not justiciable. They are not well tailored for the court. But for us as the Ombudsman, because the government must be accountable to the people, we will hold the particular department accountable.
if that be the case, it seems to me then you'd be having very many cases coming to you, because there are quite a number, and of course quite a number of Kenyans would not be able to afford the court process, again may not even be willing or interested in going through the court process. How have you gone about educating people about your office?
We receive many complaints and we're almost overwhelmed, but we try to cope. In the last 3 years, we have now received over 130,000 complaints. We have resolved at least 100,000. That's a huge number. We have sought to educate Kenyans on our existence. We visited at least 41 out of the 47 counties, just talking to public officers, to ordinary Kenyans about what we do. We've opened offices. We are present in at least 13 locations now in this country. 5 substantive offices, and in other areas we are in the Huduma centers. Whenever you see an Huduma center, you'll probably find one of our lawyers present there. We have gone to the stations, radio stations, virtually all the FMs in this country. Last year we had a crash program of visiting the FMs. We go to agricultural shows, we do road shows, we do town meetings. We've endeavored to reach out to Kenyans and tell them of our existence. It is still true that there are still many Kenyans who do not know of our existence or what we do. But of course, being a new office, only 3 years, that is expected, because this country is big and Kenyans are also very busy with many other things. But we endeavor to do that, and we hope that through programs such as this one, then many more Kenyans get to know what we do and how we do it. In Nairobi, we are present both at the Huduma Center at GPO and our substantive office on Wayaki Way. In Mombasa, we are at Ambalal House, right in the center of town, and also at the Huduma Center at the GPO. In Kisumu, we are in what we call the Central Square building. So we're in different places, and we endeavor to...
Looking at even the website and access, if I wanted to register a complaint, looking at the system that is there, even the buildings that you've mentioned, they're mainly in the urban areas, yet the office is created constitutionally to take care of that mwananchi who's not even able to access a lawyer. In fact, your motto is hata mnyonge ana haki, which is a reversal of the Swahili saying mnyonge hana haki. So now, how have you accessed that mwananchi to give him haki ule ako kule mashinani kabisa? Because your system is online, which is very urban. You're in Nairobi, you're in Huduma centers, which are still within very urban areas. What about the mwananchi who's really at the grassroots and cannot even access an ID somewhere, in the...
You're quite right, Mr. Gitonga. Our ideal is to be present in each county, and in fact, to even take it beyond the counties, to the sub-counties, to the constituencies. Indeed, the approval that we have on the setup right now is to have a county ombudsman in each county, who then will also go around and serve the people. Our problem, though, is, which is a problem in, I think, most other public offices, that the budgetary allocations do not enable us to do that. Now, we have the choice of saying that because our budget does not enable us, we will just stay in Nairobi. But we took the proactive choice of finding other alternative ways of reaching out to the people, even as we wait for that budgetary allocation. You'll be surprised to know that the offices that I've been talking about, most of them we have secured through support by donors. We have consciously gone out and sought donors to assist us reach the public. That is why we decided to partner with government through the Huduma centers. Not having enough money to be present everywhere, we decided that what we would do, and it was very good because we partnered with the Ministry of Devolution, and we requested that because they're opening Huduma centers everywhere, they would give us the space at the Huduma centers where we don't have to pay the rent, but we just send our lawyers. So the truth is, we are present in many locations that I'm not quite sure you'd call that urban. We are trying to reach out. I mean, you'll find us in Kajiado, in Kisii, in Kakamega, Nyeri, Embu, for example, Isiolo. So we are trying. We may not be present in every village or in every constituency, but we are trying to have regional presence in Garissa, for example, so that at least every region or sub-region can access us in some ways. Okay. But in addition to that, we have other platforms of reaching us. You can call us, you can send an SMS free of charge.
Now that you've talked about calls, let me just take a call. Somebody actually wants to talk to you, and now that you're here, and we have somebody from Meru, I believe. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, morning, Sammy.
Oh.
Yes, Sami, go ahead with your question or comment.
My name is Sami.
Yes, Sami.
I'm listening to your discussion. I would like to know where, I'm asking, where is the Ombudsman located in Meru Town? Do they have an office in Meru Town?
All right, Sami. Okay, thank you, Sami. Sami wants to know, of course, access seems sometimes to be a bit of a challenge. Do you have an office in Meru?
No, not yet, but we are in the process of establishing. In that region, we are in Isiolo, Nyeri, Embu, and we'll also be having an officer in Meru, probably at the Huduma Center, because we try and now use the Huduma Centers because we might not have the money to hire all the officers. So as I was explaining, we have the option of sending us an SMS free of charge, and you probably already have a number. You can also call us toll-free. We have this arrangement where you can call us if you want to report some issue of maladministration, and then we are the ones who will be billed. Then we follow it up. In addition, we of course have an interactive website. But what is important is that Kenyans should know that for us you can reach us by any means, even just an SMS, even just a letter, or you fill the forms, or you visit us, provided we get to know the complaints. We also have jurisdiction to take complaints, what we call suo motu. That is without anybody complaining, provided it has come to our notice, because perhaps it's been covered on KTN. And by the way, we've taken a number of cases, even from the Gichopevu, series and others. Provided we've seen that there appears to be an issue that needs to be followed, then we take it up and follow it. Sometimes we also get anonymous complaints for those who do not want to their identity disclosed. So we endeavor to reach out Kenyans as far as we can. Of course, 3 years you couldn't have reached the entire country, but we believe that once we hit the 5-year mark, at least 80% of Kenyans should know of our existence and what we do and how to reach us.
Given that it's such a crucial and an important office, which is even enshrined in the Constitution, why has it been so slow to spread to the whole of Kenya? Okay, 3 years, I know is not a very long time, but what has kept the progress slow to a point where now you're actually seeking donors?
Well, I'd like to believe that we've probably made significant progress. If you can imagine that in only 2 years, the number of Kenyans who complain to us have moved from 4,000 to 86,000. That surely means that a lot more Kenyans have gotten to know what we do and believe in us, and that's why they bring to us the complaints. But in all fairness, Mr. Gitonga, we must remember that it's been a very busy 5 years for Kenyans. Having a constitution which is transformative and perhaps quite radical, creating new institutions, with elections in between, with governors coming in for the first time, counties coming in, I think there is no country that has been as busy as we have been in the last 5 years anywhere in the world. And therefore, getting the space also to be educating Kenyans, for Kenyans to know you and all, is not easy. And we, alongside many other new institutions, because there are many other new institutions, including commissions, including bodies and all, we've all been struggling to create that space. But for our part, we believe we have done well, but we know that we must still do a lot more.
There's a lot more to be
There's
done.
a lot more. Now, coming to the question of donors, we must accept it is a big country. We have created a constitution that has many institutions as is required of a democracy, but we are all struggling for that so-called national pie, which is why even now we have all issues of strikes and all. There is no single office that can get as much money as it needs. There will always be some gap to be filled. Now, to serve Kenyans well, you must find ways of filling that difference without letting the jurisdiction of service go. You can't say that because we don't have enough money, we'll only do this much. And that's why we have proactively gone out to seek donors, especially within the UN system. Donors who will help us do what we need to do without telling us what to do. We don't accept conditionalities. You give us money to help serve Kenyans. But if you want to tell us how to do it, then we don't take that money.
All right. Let's come to the actual procedure of registering a complaint and at what point it is valid? Because I know there are so many people who feel there's been no justice in public offices for one reason or the other, whether it is getting your passport, your ID, your driver's license, whether it is even the policeman who stops you and does not give you the rightful treatment as a citizen. What's the procedure of registering that complaint with your office?
First, we take complaints, and that's only one. I'll mention a couple of others. We do receive complaints, and the way we receive complaints, through any means. You can walk to our offices anywhere, wherever they are, and if you do, you will find a lawyer. We have a number of lawyers. We almost have 60 lawyers right now. They will give you a form, and they will help you fill it. That is, if you walk to our offices or to any Huduma center, you will find our lawyer there. Or you could choose just to put your complaints in your own words, either typed or handwritten, and you'll bring it to us as it is, and we will receive it.
In other words, you don't have to fill the form.
You don't have to fill the form. You can write it the way you want.
Okay.
Then it will be our business to read through it and reduce it into the exact complaints that can be dealt with. Or you can simply walk in and explain what your issue is, and then the lawyers will reduce it. Or you can SMS us, and if you do, then our contact people will endeavor to call you back, because usually the SMS can only take so much. So they'll call you back and endeavor to clarify, or you can call us toll-free or on any of the numbers, in which case we'll take as much detail as we can, or we follow it up. So you can reach us through any means.
Okay, let me take a call from Bernard in Kisumu. Good morning, Bernard.
Hey, good morning, sir.
Yes, go right ahead.
Hey, thank you for what you are doing to Kenyans.
Thank you.
I've once fallen to be a victim.
Mm-hmm.
I was working with the Kenya Railways, and then I was sacked.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote to the Ombudsman on 16th March 2015, and they responded.
Okay.
Then I asked my lawyer to write back. He did the same, but the Ombudsman also responded, but I haven't received that letter up to now. So yesterday I had to text my lawyer, because most of the time he doesn't pick my calls. I text him to ask him whether what he's doing what is the what has happened. So I've been wondering, because in my ruling I was to be paid by Rift Valley Railways, and the case they had to appeal, but the money was deposited on a joint account.
Okay.
Of which the appeal hasn't been listened to up to now.
All right.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. We'll take Kabuga, who is in Kakamega, then we'll answer both of them together. Kabuga, good morning. Hello.
Hello, Michael. Morning.
Good morning to you, Mr. Kabuga.
I wanted to post a question to the Ombudsman. I don't know if I can get help from him.
Yes, go right ahead. He's listening. Or rather,
I have this case at the Kakamega Law Court. A robbery case against the suspect is still at large. I've been going to the court several times. The last time I went, I was told the court file has disappeared, the police file is missing. So I'm suspecting it's like there's somebody who is bent on derailing the course of justice. I have not got my justice. I was robbed of everything in my house.
Okay.
So I don't know if the Ombudsman can get into that and assist me, or is there an office in Kakamega or something?
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Kabuga. We'll take one more. Kyoko in Matu. Good morning, Kyoko. Kyoko in Matu, good morning. Okay, okay, I think we've lost that call. So there you have it, and I'm sure there are many more complaints. But let's start with the first one of the gentleman who was already awarded and seems not to be getting the money. Was deposited into a joint account, and that seems also not to have reached him.
Actually, let's take both, because they relate to courts, both of them.
Yes.
Let me start by explaining that, yes, we have jurisdiction even over the judiciary, because the Constitution gives us jurisdiction to address and investigate any matter in any sphere of government that is deemed prejudicial, that amounts to abuse of power or improper conduct. However, we do not deal with the substance of the decisions of the court, because that would be interfering with the judiciary. That is, we don't look into the decision and say the judge was right or wrong. But other administrative issues around that, for example, when a file disappears, as the gentleman is saying from Kakamega, or there's what we call unreasonable delay, you've been waiting for a ruling for 7 years or 5 years, or some of those procedural things, then we come in. Now, when we do come in, and yes, we can come in, for example, when he says he's been going to court in Kakamega for very long and the file has disappeared and all, then we can come in. If he's in Kakamega, he can go to see our lawyers at the Huduma Center in Kakamega. But sometimes when we get such routine complaints, especially with disappearance of files, then we liaise with the judiciary ombudsman. There's an administrative office created under the judiciary, which was created after we also encouraged the Chief Justice to do this, who routinely looks at some of those improprieties within the judiciary. So for issues like that, some of the more minor issues we refer to the judiciary ombudsman, ask them to look into it, and then they also report back to us, or we look into it ourselves. So if he's in Kakamega, he can actually go to either office, or he can write to us. He can even just, write to us an email. Okay. And we will follow it up.
How does one separate the roles, given that the judiciary really is there to take care of the Mwananchi and ensure that justice is performed? So now when there's a complaint against the judiciary, how do you handle that?
The system we have in the Constitution is that everybody is accountable. Even though the judiciary is to give justice, the judiciary must also be accountable. Correct. And that's why even we are accountable. Everybody is accountable. It is not a contradiction. And for us, we are quite happy that the Chief Justice established the Office of the Judiciary Ombudsman. We have sought to encourage virtually every other department to have an ombudsman office or an equivalent, so that there's a first point of call. Before you even come to us, you would have had an internal complaints mechanism. If it is, it relates to ideas and all, you will at least have asked. It has now taken 3 months, so that there's a preliminary answer. So the idea that the judiciary has an ombudsman is actually supposed to improve the efficiency of the judiciary, and it's a good thing. But let me now tie that with the gentleman from Kisumu. I'm not quite sure what his case is, but what I could tell him right now is if he has an inquiry and is in Kisumu, he can simply walk over to our office in Bank of Baroda. He'll find at least 3 lawyers there. From his inquiry, it appears he's not quite sure whether the answer lies with us, whether the answer lies with his lawyers, or whether the answer lies with the court. Let me clarify that to the extent that advocates are not public officers, when you get a complaint against the advocate, we don't deal with the advocate because they're private practitioners. Right. But we refer their complaints to the Advocates Complaints Commission, so that if any advocate did not do something, then they are followed, and then we ask them to let us know what action they've taken.
All right, yes. Let me cut you short. We need to take a call from Mohammed in Nairobi. Good morning, Mohammed.
Very good morning to you.
Yes, Mohammed, and if you could speak up a little bit, please.
Yeah, I'm calling you. My name is Mohammed Khadar Dek. I'm calling you from Isli, Nairobi.
Okay.
I had applied an ID in 2013. And whenever I check through an SMS or go to the office, they call me, they tell me the form is in Nairobi. And when I reach Nairobi, they are telling me that they have sent back my form to Garissa. So I just did my KCSE examination in last year in 2014, and yet I didn't join to any institution or college or university.
Okay.
So,
all right.
So I don't know what to do.
All right, Mohammed, we'll answer you shortly. We also have Dennis in Nakuru. Good morning, Dennis.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Dennis. To your question.
Yeah, fine. I'm asking also a good question. I'm also happened to deal with Ombudsman some time back last year. I was a student at Egerton University, and I was expelled and without sufficient reasons.
You are expelled?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I exploited all the internal mechanisms, including the Ombudsman. But the Ombudsman, when they did their investigations, indeed they saw that I was not expelled in the right way.
Okay.
But due to the pressure of the management and all that, they could not do anything. So I had to move to court. So the case is pending in court, so I can't go beyond that because I could be interfering with the judiciary.
Okay.
Yeah, but the Ombudsman, what I realized is that they cannot do anything. They cannot overrule the decision of the management since they are part of the system.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in short, you are not reinstalled. That case.
In fact, they discussed. They even advised me to move to court. So I didn't see it's like I realized they cannot institute and they cannot take any step.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Dennis. Dr. Otiende, we have there Mohammed, who's been applying, or rather waiting for an ID from 2013. He comes to Nairobi. He's told it's in Garissa. He goes to Garissa. It's in Nairobi. Back and forth. He's not been able to do what he needs to do. And as a Kenyan who deserves an ID, what does he do?
Well, if Mohammed is in Nairobi, I think I just encourage him to come to office right away, because that's a specific case. The regulations by the ministry indicate that if you are in Nairobi, you should get an ID within 16 days. If you are in, say, Garissa, it should be a maximum of 35 days. So since 2013, that's what we would call inordinate delay. I encourage him to just take a vehicle, come to our offices on Wayaki Way, West End Towers, second floor, anytime, even now, and then we will take up the case as a specific case.
And now for a case like this, because I'm sure there are many others,
yes.
For a case like this, when they come to their office, what's the turnaround time expected?
You'll be surprised. There are some that are quite urgent. For example, one of the cases I remember where a lady who lives in Canada applied for renewal of a passport, and it was said it should take 4 days, and she had to travel on the 7th day. So by the time she came to us, she only had 1 more day left. And we were able to intervene, and she got her passport within less than 24 hours, because now we took the shorter route. We actually just called and sent somebody to the office, and they were able to get it. So it all depends. Sometimes people complain, and you find that there's just some administrative lapse. Perhaps there was some document that was required, but was not included, but the officer, maybe in Garissa or elsewhere, has not told this complainant, or is just lazy. The documents are there, but then they just tell you come back next week because they are tired of looking at it. Or sometimes you find that actually there's just a systems failure. There are instances when people, all the processes are okay, and then they say there's no material to produce IDs in some areas. So it all depends on the nature of the issue. But for us, if they complain, then we take it up immediately. On average, within 2 weeks, we should have been able to get a very concrete answer to the question, because we give the officers just a maximum of 14 days. If for any reason they fail, we give them a reminder of 7 more days. That comes to 21. If they still fail, now we issue them with what we call a notice. Now, the notice is the last document we issue. It's a 7-day notice, failing which then we issue now a summons. And if you defy the summons, then you are in danger of being jailed for up to 5 years and also being fined $500,000.
Okay. Are there instances that your office is not able to handle a case?
I'm not aware of any. The closest there is, and let me come back to the gentleman who was saying is from Egerton, and then I answer that. I'm not quite sure I got his question, but I think he suggested that he had come to us, we had started working on it, and then he went to court. The procedure, as I indicated, is we provide an administrative way of dealing with matters. So if you come to us, we will deal with that matter as far as we can go and redress it. But if you choose to go to court either initially or while we are looking at it, then we wash our hands, because now it's in the hands of the judiciary. So we will let the judiciary deal with that, which I suspect is what may have happened in this case. We have dealt with many cases, including of students who have been improperly expelled. We've had students reinstated by universities, provided it's a public university or a public school. But if you come to us and then you also choose to go to court, you can't have both worlds. You can't get the benefit of both. If we realize that, then we pull out and let the judiciary deal with it. Yes.
Okay, now one of our newspapers, the Nairobian, came up with the Nairobian Defender. And when we were during the launch, I had you even mention that the name Ombudsman actually came later. Maybe you can tell me on your thoughts on how this Nairobian Defender will complement your office.
The idea of the Nairobian Defender is a very good idea, because we train Kenyans and we train public officers all the time that now the Constitution gives you the right to good public administration. If you are ill-treated by the police, by, say, a teacher, or by any public official, please complain so that it's followed up logically. We have had public officers terminated for mistreating Kenyans or acting improperly. we've had even public officers benefit from us. The Nairobian Defender, as I understand it, will be raising some of those issues that they get from the public.
Correct. They'll be following up
Yes.
on stories which
and
have
then
not
they will
been
be
resolved.
following up. So for us, it becomes a very rich source of getting legitimate complaints and helping resolve them. It's as effective as opening, say, 100 other offices in 100 different locations in Kenya, because the media is, of course, better equipped than ourselves for now to get information from the public, including anonymous complaints. And when, therefore, they raise it, for us, we will be happy to take it, even if we don't know who the original complainant was. So, as I understand it, the Nairobian Defender would be raising those issues. And for us, we will be picking them and seeking to remedy them. And of course, we'll be happy to share with the Nairobian Defender how we've remedied those complaints.
Okay, as we wind up, for those who possibly would be able to reach you online and maybe they don't have an office, how can they reach you, and is that an effective way of having problems solved?
I think the easiest way, and many Kenyans are quite IT savvy,
Correct.
is just Google the word Ombudsman Kenya. You will find all the options. You'll find how to reach us on Twitter, on Facebook, our SMS platform, our hotline, which is toll-free, all our offices, everything, you will find it there. But those who want to physically see us, then you can either visit any of our offices, as I've described, or just go to any Huduma center. If you go to any Huduma center, then ask for the desk of the Ombudsman, and you'll reach us there.
Okay, and all the services from the Ombudsman free?
Are completely free. All the services are completely free. In fact, that's very important, because some people have now come in who are trying to be brokers, that they get complaints from the public, and some we hear even ask for some money to facilitate them to bring the complaint to the Ombudsman. Our services are completely free, and you do not pay a single shilling to be assisted by any of our officers.
Free to everyone, not just...
they are free to completely everyone, including non-Kenyans who are within this jurisdiction, or come into contact with officialdom, even at the airport and elsewhere.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Otiende Amollo, who is the CEO for the Commission and the Chairman of the Commission of Administrative Justice, also known as the Ombudsman's Office. And I believe, is Sophia with us on short? Okay, I guess, yeah, that's the Ombudsman Office. And remember, he has mentioned that if you would like to reach them online, all you need to do is just Google Ombudsman's Office Kenya, and all the options will come up there. And remember, it is a free service. So if you have anybody who is charging you for it, then they're doing it illegally. In fact, that's one of the people that you should ensure the Ombudsman takes care of, because that's what they're there for. So we have Sophia now. Sophia, I hope you got some information there that helped out on the Ombudsman. You warned me about that earlier on.
I told you earlier to be careful of a shrub of that word, because, but no, that was a great interview in terms of just breaking it down for people. And you saw how many questions were coming in, because again, and I think what I'd pose to the Ombudsman is to do a lot of more getting people to be aware of their work, where they're based, how to reach them, and things like, you're not charged, because that's important to know, because they are unscrupulous individuals who decide, I'm going to be your broker to get your services. But great show. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. And also thank you very much for your calls, and we sure do hope that we got great information out to you, because that's definitely an office that's very crucial and important. Indeed. And that is where we'll wrap up Morning Express today. We told you change the state of things a little bit over here, but it has been a great pleasure to have you with us. For those on KTN News, join me, because after this we'll have the news hour. Bye, Michael. All right.